So we're doing this session and it is really focused on motivation and how you are motivating. So understanding how you motivate yourself and how you motivate others. And that's what these, this week and next week is all about, is how you understand yourself and your own motivations and how you motivate others. And we're going to start off looking at systems thinking, because we are not islands. We're all in part of these systems and multiple systems. So we just want to start at that really, really high level and get you thinking about the system you are part of, in order for you to become aware of, when you're managing others or trying to influence others, what system they are a part of. So how everything is interlinked. So I'm going to draw for you in a way to try and simplify that thought or the thinking around systems. So there's lots of ways of drawing systems and how they're connected, but I'm just going to take this approach to try and simplify it for you today. So we start off right at the center of your system is you. So this is you at the center of your system. And then you around you, that's your system. So in your system are your values and your purpose and your talents and your difficulties. That's all in your system. So understanding yourself and your system. And the reason I've drawn a perforated line is because you're not an island. Everything you do impacts on the systems around you, and all the systems around you impact on you. So the next level of the system, let's draw the system first, would be probably family. So in here, so you are in the centre of there, but then your family is a system as well. It has a way of operating. It's an entity in itself. So you've got your immediate family, and then you've probably got your wider family. So your family fits in with the wider family. So uncles, there's here's mother, father, yeah, children. Then you've got, so you know how you sit in your system, who you are as an individual, how you fit with your immediate family, what the relationships are like, where the interlinking things are, and then how your family fits in with the wider family. And then another system, maybe outside the family, is our friends. It could be work, peers. It might be your religious, if you belong to a church or something that's quite close to you, or your groups. So the ones that are closer to you. And then outside of there is the wider community that you belong to. So all of these things impact on each other. And then we go further out, you might go to your political system, to your borough, to your county, that sort of, so I'm going to put county, and then outside the county, probably got the UK, your country, and outside your country, we've got the world. So, and these all get impacted on each other, but they're systems in themselves. So let's just go around there. And then the world is, and then outside of that is the universe. Yeah. So each one of those is a system. So we could draw complicated maps and systems for each one of these areas, these outside, these circles. But they're all interlinked. and we get something like COVID come along, and that will cross all of the systems. Coronavirus comes in and disrupts everything right across all those systems. And we feel that keenly. Most of the time we don't. We're not really aware of some of these other things and how we're impacted. But something like this comes in and we're really clear about how we're impacted. And everything we do, what we do impacts the systems around us to greater or lesser degree, but it works the other way. The systems have impact on us. So if we talk about the conversation we've just had to start, you've got, I'll come back to you, Anne, that you're overwhelmed or there's things coming at you. You've got the system putting pressure on you and you're trying to do your best to work with the system and do your thing. But you're constantly part of that system and you were both impacted and are affected by it. At times we can start thinking that we are the system. We can feel that we're going to close that loop and we're not going to have any perforations. But that doesn't work. So that you've got things like the news that come into you can switch off, but it doesn't stop the system operating, it's still carrying on. So everything you do is in this system, or a system. And you are both part of the system and a system within yourself. So, and the thing is with understanding that is this is from Theory U, is the ability to take your telescope, my lovely telescope here, and from your perspective, see the system. But the other bit, what you need to be able to do is to see yourself in the system. So you get self-awareness and perspective. So you need your lens to be able to look out into the system, but also back onto yourself. So that's the model. Now, you can come off mute now. And I'm going to change the view. Alex, have I missed anything there?
No, you've got it all.
Good. So now over to Alex, who's going to set you a task.
So we are going to get you to start thinking about your own systems. So really looking at what does your system structure look like, similar to Tracy's drawing. What are the things, what are the systems that are impacting you and vice versa? Because when we start to become self-aware, like Tracy's saying, and become conscious of the different systems we have and looking back at ourselves, we can gain more understanding of choice and the impact that it has, right? So I'm going to get you to draw your own systems, and then we're going to send you into breakout rooms where you will discuss your system drawings with a partner and talk about what came up for you, right? So you'll have 5 minutes to just draw that before we send you out into breakout rooms.
Okay, you ready? I'm going to put you into your rooms now. So
just one thing before you send them into the rooms. So just in terms of sharing your insights on your systems, one thing to think about is, this is in the context of motivating and in the larger context of leadership. So just have those two things in your mind when referring to your systems and how those are tied in.
Thank you. Point of taking you through that thinking is that all the time we are affecting and affected by, but we do get stuck in our heads or stuck in our tasks and not really get our heads up and see the system that we're in and what is important to us, in order to nurture and be compassionate with ourselves, or how we connect to others, even more importantly, because you've all looked at it and you've got similarities, but you've all got some differences, and we are all different. So in a team, you know, when you come to lead in a team, the team is a collective of individuals that are linked. We're looking at how we link them, but they are a system, and it's an entity in itself. A team is not 5 or 6 people or 12 people, and Jimmy's like this and Tracy's like that, and you've got individual identities, yes, but what are the patterns that play out in a team, and what does that system look like? Do you have people talking too much? Do you have people that are innovative that are not allowed to innovate because something else is going on, some pattern? There's tensions in the team, something else comes in, some pressure from the outside, and that changes the system of the team. And then everyone you encounter, you know, whether maybe you have contractors, are also part of the system. And then they link into your system. But they are, and it's not really spending hours thinking about what's the system we're in, but just going, okay, what's at play here? Take a helicopter view. What's the system that's at play? How are we being affected? How are we behaving? And what's that system over there that we're interacting with? So we're one department, we're one team, we're dealing with another team. What questions should I be asking, or should I be noticing, that helps me lead my team or interact with that person, that team? Does that make sense? Because we get stuck in the task rather than looking at the system. Do you want to add anything, Alex? Or
No, I think you've covered it all.
okay, good stuff.
Oh, I think the thing that I saw a commonality coming up is how some people's systems became more of a priority than something else on the basis of the circumstances that they were in.
Brilliant.
I think that was something that I wanted to highlight. Yeah,
and that's completely, it becomes bigger in our world and smaller in our world, but it's constantly present. Mm. So that community is constant. Now it's bigger, but and then you talk about friends that you haven't spoken to for a while. You know, they've gone from being in the system but quite way out to back into present. So it's just being aware of that, and being aware of how you're affected and what you need to get for yourself, because it's also about that internal lens, understanding yourself, not just the external.
And what systems fuel you as well?
Mm. Yeah. Or drain you. Should we do the 5 dysfunctions now? So the next model I'm going to show you is 5 dysfunctions of a team. So if you could go on to mute, and then I will pin myself. So this is, so we're looking at leadership and teams. And this is a model from Patrick Lencioni. I'll probably pronounce his name wrong, but that's okay. And it's the 5 dysfunctions of a team. So it's probably the most used model to look at how teams are functioning. And it's a very simple model, but he looks at it through the lens of the 5 dysfunctions. So I'm going to map them out for you now. So at the very base of the dysfunctioning team is the absence of trust. And this trust is not, Alex says she'll send me an email, so she sends me an email. Helene says she's going to do this project, and she does this project. So the doing your objectives and delivering what you're supposed to. It's the trust that I pick up the phone to Alex and say, I'm not feeling very comfortable about this. Can I talk it through with you? Would you be able to help me? So that trust, it's vulnerability-based trust. So much more a deep-rooted trust than just you do what you say you're going to do. I feel safe. I can be vulnerable with you, and what I say to you is going to stay with you, and it's not going to harm me in any way, and you're there to care and support me. It's that trust. We can be open. And even if it's not about caring and supporting, we've got the right intentions all the time, and that we trust each other's intentions. So that's the trust. So that's at the base level of a dysfunction in team, is the absence of trust. And the absence of trust leads to this: fear of conflict. If we have no trust, we may not challenge. And if you think about leaders that really don't want you to challenge them, then there's this lack of trust, lack in their own ability, really, so they don't want to be challenged. And so when you're in a team, there is a lack of trust and lack of and fear of conflict. There'll be no challenges, there'll be no disagreements. People will play lip service and say yes to things. And you will be aware, if you're a leader and you've got people working for you, they won't challenge you, they won't question you, they'll just carry on and say, yes, I'll do it. And so it's really this easy way of seeing if you've got trust in a team, because if you haven't, there'll be this fear of conflict and no one will challenge. And the beauty of the challenge is that we might come up with better solutions if we can challenge each other. But even more so on the next level, if you can't challenge, there's no trust, you can't challenge, then the next is this: lack of commitment. Because I can't be open with you. You asked me, Alex asked me to do something, or this is a good idea. She says, should we run the session a bit tomorrow like this? And I go, yeah, okay then. But I think it's a really bad idea. So I'm not going to challenge her, or vice versa. She thinks I've got some really bad ideas, but she doesn't challenge me. And she goes, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And then when we come to run the session, something else happens. And she just lets my idea float away because she's not really committed to it. So it doesn't happen.
And then it gets done begrudgingly, and then there's a sense of tension that remains.
Definitely. And that fuels back into the lack of trust. And then the next level is the avoidance of accountability. Okay, so it's not my fault. Helen didn't deliver, so I couldn't do anything about it. It's not my fault. So I don't take any accountability. It's excuses, excuses. You must have heard this from suppliers as well as contractors, where somebody else's fault, I couldn't possibly do anything about it. It's because at one level there's not the trust maybe, and they've been frightened to say to you that's not going to happen. So they've said, yes, it's going to happen. They know it's not. They're not really accountable. When they come to you, they'll tell you all the reasons it didn't happen. It was nothing to do with them. And then the last is the inattention to results. So going back to the team, we all set our objectives. And so all I'm concerned about, because there's no trust in the team, is getting my objectives, because then I'll get a good appraisal and no one's going to sack me. So I focus on my objectives. People ask me to do things that are not quite in my objective. I might say yes, play lip service, but don't actually do it. I'm not committed because I'm really focused on myself. I'm not focused on the team. I'm not going to take any accountability for the team's success. I'm just focusing on my own success, and therefore I deliver all my results and the team fails miserably, but it doesn't matter to me because I've got my results. But overall, the organisation, the team loses out because we haven't got this trust and this challenge, which brings for better solutions. We don't have the commitment. We don't take accountability. It's someone else's fault, and therefore it's not my fault if it doesn't deliver. I've done what I'm supposed to do. So that's the 5 dysfunctions, which means the exact opposite is the highly functioning team. So that's a really basic, simple model. It's not simple to build trust, but it is simple. The model is simple. But building trust, we'll talk about, and the next thing we look at, how to build trust. But for now, I think we've got a breakout exercise around this model.
Yeah. What I'd also add is that when there is a breakdown in a team, you always go back to trust. How can I build trust within that team? And this model really helps to kind of look at where in that process of the team breaking down has that been affected by one of those stages. So the exercise that we're going to get you to do now is to, in your homework, you would have thought about, hopefully, about where you've had situations where teams have been very strong and situations where a team that you've been a part of has become very dysfunctional. And we want you to think about those again, but more specifically, think about what role did you play in a team that was very strong and what role did you play in a team that was dysfunctional. Yeah. So we'll give you 10 minutes, so 5 minutes each, and then in those 5 minutes, talk about the strong team and the dysfunctional team. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm just rearranging you. I think you've all got different people. There we go. Start recording again. And so we showed you this when we were all together in the I in leadership. So we talked about systems, we talked about understanding ourselves and the system we're in, and now we've just talked about the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And the base of that is building trust. So how do we build trust? And I'm going to repeat exactly what I said to you in the I of leadership. If you could learn one thing from this course and this series of sessions from Alex, myself and Winston, it will be the ability to really listen. And not only to listen to the world around you, but to also listen to yourself. So on that note, if I could just ask you to mute. And then I will take you through this model. And again, this comes from Theory U and levels of listening. So the first is, this is you, first level of listening. And this is in your house. So let's look at it, your house or your domain. So the first level of listening is this one, and it's downloading. And downloading is I'm just going to listen to everything that affirms my worldview. So I'm not actually listening, I'm just gathering the information that confirms everything I know, that I'm right and it fits my world order. So it's just this downloading and not actually listening. There is, yeah, I guess if you're in an emergency, you might just want to download because you're under stress and acting. So if there's a fire, you might be in download mode just to put out the fire. So, but that's the first level of listening. So the second level is, I go to the edge of my domain and I look out of my window. And here it's factual. So here I'm sense checking. It's still from my own perspective, from my domain, but I'm looking out for information of what I think is right or wrong. So to change my opinion, to change my thoughts, I'm sense checking things, information coming at me from the outside world to just adjust my thinking and my world order. But it still comes from me. I'm at the centre of that. But it's more open than downloading because I'm actually listening to make corrections on my thinking. So the next level is empathetic. So now I'm outside of my world order, my domain, and I'm in your shoes. So I'm now removed myself from my domain and I've put myself into your shoes and I'm listening through your eyes. So I'm completely connected. I've parked my own feelings a bit and I'm connected with you and everything in your world. So really in here is active listening, connecting, and really taking on board. So this is what a lot of us get to with friends. If they're in trouble, we're into empathetic listening. But the next level is generative. And generative listening is the ability to hold space for something to be born. So I'm listening without any judgments, without any boundaries or barriers to the possibilities of what is possible for you. So if I'm coaching, I should be in generative. And Alex, I don't know if you want to step in there and just talk about what that means, how you translated generative.
Yes. So I was listening to the video on this, which is by a guy called Otter. And what I really loved about this was that how he describes is it when someone's listening, but what they're doing is that it's not just looking at where the person is at in the past, but also looking at where the person is going in the future and helping them connect the dots of how to get from the past to the future. That's really what coaches do when they're listening to you, that they're not just downloading, they're not factual, they are empathetic, but it's one step further with generative. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's all about the possibilities. So your coach, or when you're listening, you're not restrained or constrained by what has been, but the possibility of what could be, based on what I know from the past, what I see in front of me, what I hear, and so this infinite possibility. There's this infinite possibility. So there's no judgments, no holding back. If you tell me, Karen, you want to be the next president, then I'm looking for evidence that I can help you see your way to that future place. And that's generative. So if you are a leader, and if you think about your examples of leading, there are times you want to be in empathetic, but there are times you want to hold this generative space for the possibilities, infinite possibilities. But you're not going to want that all the time. You just hold that space for your team and for individuals within your team. And your trust will grow exponentially. If you can do that for people, you will build an enormous amount of trust. And I hope, I mean, we were with me and Alex, and you've been with Winston, and you've been coached, that in our sessions that you get a sense of, I hold that space for any possibility for you. And it's that's how you should experience it. And there'll be times you'll be factual. You know, if you're working on a project and you need to get things done and you're at the last bit of the project, or you're into the real doing, you might want to be here. That's fine. It's not a problem. It's just being aware that you're going to build more trust if you can hit these levels of listening. Okay?
So we're going to do a exercise. I'm conscious of the time. So is everyone okay with staying just a little bit longer past? And by that I mean 5-10 minutes more. Yeah. Okay, great. So what I want you to do is you're going to be put in pairs in the breakout rooms, and I want you to bring up a challenge that you're currently having that can either be at work or personal, and you will have 5 minutes to talk about it, and the other person just to tune into their listening, hopefully get to generative listening, and just think about, you know, what's challenging about doing that. Think about your physiology, you know, how are you feeling about doing that? And then at the 5-minute mark, just write down how that was as the person speaking and being listened to, and as the listener listening to the person speaking. Yeah. And then at 5 minutes, we're just going to get you to swap round.
You can do 5 minutes.
So 10 in total, 5 each side.
Okay, so yeah, okay, good stuff. Yeah, that might be a bit long. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. So then we can do 3 minutes, 3 minutes each.
Yeah, is that okay? So it gives us a chance for some feedback. That's the.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. 3 minutes each, 6 minutes. Here we go.
Tracy, can you do mine again? I just unclicked it by accident.
Oh.
I was in breakout room 2.
Oh. Move to. Oh. Now, how do I do that? Oh, I don't know how to do it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I was trigger happy then.
I've moved you to there. Move to.
You moved me to 1, have you? Okay.
I moved you now. Have you got it? Yeah.